I graduated with a class of 2016. As I graduated, I thought about going to a career field about the medical field because I want to be a nurse. I was in my second semester of college, BJC. I was 3 weeks in, started my fourth. That weekend, I started feeling weird and didn't feel right, and I was coughing a lot. On February 4th, we went to the minor emergency clinic, and they said, test me for the flu, and it came back negative. They said I probably just have an upper respiratory infection, gave me some antibiotics. Then they said I could return to work the next day, so I did to get done and go home early because I was feeling so bad. Eventually, I called my mom saying I couldn't breathe. We went home, and then she took my temperature, and I had a fever. She called my boss saying I couldn't come into work the next day because we're going back to the doctor at the clinic. About 1 o'clock that morning, I woke up like huffing and puffing, like I couldn't breathe. Got to the ER, we drove over there, and then I got out of the car, went into the lobby, we waited about 10-15 minutes after signing in. And then they took me back there, and they asked if I want a wheelchair, and I said no, I'll be fine, because I don't think it's that serious. And when I got back in the room, literally sat down on the bed and leaned back, I basically was conscious, but I wasn't alert.
Well, when they checked her O2, she was at 68%, barely getting enough air to survive. They put her on a BiPAP to help her breathe. Okay, and they said she got pneumonia. Later in the day, Kathy told me that they're going to have to intubate her. I'm like, well, that's pretty severe for pneumonia. By the time I got to the hospital that night, they then had her sedated coma. And, she had about 12 or 15 bags of IVs going on her just to support her life. The first few days, we didn't really expect any improvement because they were just trying to stabilize her and get the medicines going. And then they tried bringing her out of sedation one day. And when they did, she got extremely agitated. And in the process, punctured a hole in her lung and collapsed her right lung. So they had to put a chest tube in to get her lung inflated. And that chest tube stayed in a couple days before they realized that something just wasn't right about it. And on February 14th, the doctor made a decision that he couldn't do anything more for her there, that she needed to go to a hospital in Dallas. They got her to Baylor, and by that next morning they took her into surgery to look and see what was going on. And they ended up putting a camera in her and noticed that she had a large hole caused by infection in her lung, and they ended up putting 3 chest tubes in. And at that time they decided to give her a little more assistance, and they put her on, it's called a ECMO, which is just a machine that takes the blood out and oxygenates it. And that was keeping her alive, but they had her maxed out on it. By the following weekend, her O2 was staying in the 80s, and they couldn't give her any more oxygen. And so they decided to change the type of ventilator they put her on. And before they did, the pulmonary doctor told us, he said, I want to warn y'all that when they get to this point, there's not much else we can do. This is our last resort. So I just want to prepare y'all because this isn't looking good for her. And so they put her on this ventilator, and they had already put her on dialysis a couple days before because she was so swollen. There was a potential for this ventilator to do more damage to her lungs than what was already done by the infection. For about the first hour after they did that, her oxygen levels went up. And it looked like, well, this is going to work. And then after about an hour, she kind of steadied out. And I can remember thinking, Lord, is this the way she's going to go? Her life just started as an adult. Is this your plan? I was wondering, what are you up to, God? What do you have in store for this? the next day, the surgeon came in and had put the ECMO machine on her and had discussed with the doctors what all was going on and what her status was. And he said, well, let's adjust the lines on the ECMO a little bit. He did that, and she perked right up, and within the next few days they were able to turn down all the machines. And then it was just a matter of getting off all the infection. After a couple of weeks, she started coming out of sedation, but she really couldn't communicate with us.
When I started basically remembering some details, most details was when I moved to Select ICU. They started working with me to learn how to walk again. And that was probably the most toughest thing I've ever done in my entire life. Because it was painful, my knees were aching all the time. It was just painful. And I was going, why me? Why me? Why is this happening to me? It just was very strange from going to be able to do stuff to going to not be able to do nothing. Baylor Rehab. And then we were there about a week. We left the day before Easter. I think it was April 15th. Started rehab with home health care and the East Texas physical therapy. They're saying I'm improving a lot. It's just going to take time. I don't know what God's got planned for me, but I know it must be something big or I want to be here.
We were about ready to, start planning the burial. We had almost lost all hope, and then God gave us hope again.
I just don't know how to explain it. Can't explain God's works.
It showed us that, He's in control. It was definitely seeing a miracle unfold.
This is my stone, but it is more than a stone. It's a reminder that God's hand is mighty, and He's worthy of our trust and our praise.